Good evening, beautiful souls. I recognise it may not be evening by the time you watch this, but it is evening as I record this. So, yes. Anyway, my name is Jessie. I am a Reiki master, an intuitive tarot and oracle card reader, and I am a counsellor, among other things. We'll get into that in this session. So, basically, as you can see, I have this card out. Hang on, I will. Hopefully you can see it. Yes, so these are the DNA strands. And I feel like I need to talk about genes. And when I said among other things, I also meant that I am an environmental scientist. So I studied science at uni, and I also did quite a bit of studies in genetics. And I really feel like I need to talk about the nature versus nurture debate and how genes, people have this impression that genes decide your fate, and that's not true. Really, it's equal parts nature and like equal parts genes and your environment. And epigenetics is a thing where as you're developing as an egg, the environment that's going on around you turns on and off genes, and those genes, and also throughout your life, what happens to you turns on and off genes. And we also, at least in Australia, we talk about generational trauma, which and the Aboriginal peoples have been through, because when, Europeans or the English came to take over Australia, they enforced a lot of genocide on many of the Aboriginal peoples. So that genocide has carried down through the generations, and there's also been all sorts of wrongs that have happened to Aboriginals. And yes, so this is not just to say that it's just trauma is passed down through generations, but also good things passed down, and knowledge gets passed down, and it's all in your genes, and it's all you can access and resolve trauma. And I have also studied as a shaman. So one of the first things they do when you start studying as a shaman is to go back and heal the trauma of your ancestors, so that at this point, your current genes no longer have that trauma, and you don't have to pass that trauma down to the next generation. And it also, clears and deactivates some of the genes in your body. This past, generational healing. So yeah, this also kind of goes hand in hand with those DNA tests that you send off, and they, send it back saying you were, your ancestors originated from here, 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 and here. And you're likely to get, based on your genes, you're likely to get this disease and that disease and all these other diseases. And considering it's a scientific thing, people generally go, oh, okay, so that's in my genes. But the thing is, those genes may not be active. Like if you have a family history of breast cancer, I guess, that doesn't necessarily mean that you will get breast cancer because all of your parents or all of your mums and aunts and female, even actually men have breast cancer as well. So all of your family members have had breast cancer. That does not mean that you will get breast cancer. It just means that you have the predisposition to have it. The genes are there, but it may not be turned on. And there's also the psychopath gene, because watching Netflix, I think there's that TV show Sabrina on it, the new version, and I think she discovers, or I'm not sure if it's Sabrina because I barely watched that. Anyway, so there's this theme I've noticed in TV shows and media in general that basically says if you have the psychopath gene, therefore you will be a psychopath and you have absolutely no choice, and the struggle is to, try and stop yourself becoming a psychopath because that is, it's in your genes, therefore it is true, and scientists have said so, and therefore it is true. So what I'm saying is that gene may not be turned on. Even if you have the psychopath gene, that does not mean that it will turn on. And just to illustrate this, there was this guy in America, he was a geneticist, and he was actually studying psychopaths and studying the psychopathic gene. And he came across many, 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 like, psychopaths with this gene in them. He was in America, and yet he was studying people in New Zealand and all over the world. And just before he published his paper on how this is the gene that we should try and eliminate from the human race so that it will be a better, world for everyone, he discovered that he and his two sons have the psychopath gene. And considering he wasn't, out killing people and out doing psychopathic things, and his sons weren't out, killing animals as, small children psychopaths tend to do, he realized that it didn't have anything to do with the actual gene. It had everything to do with the environment. So he went back and he studied all of those people. And as he was studying them, he tried to figure out what was different between him and these psychopaths, and what was it that made the gene activate. And he discovered that it all had to do with early family life and a series of traumatic events that happened in their early adulthood and teenage years. So really, due to those traumas that happened and the life circumstances, that's why they became psychopaths, not because they had the gene in them. They simply had a predisposition to it, and just like this guy has a predisposition to it, but that does not mean that he and his sons are going to grow up to be psychopaths. So I feel like I really need to talk about that, because it's easy to say, oh, well, scientists know what they're doing. Scientists, if it's written in scientific language and it's a scientific report, then it must be true. Especially when it comes to genes and this whole idea that genes determine your fate, but they really don't. And I'm not saying, question scientists in general, but I am saying that approach everything with a healthy amount of questioning. So, and science is all about questioning. You know, they present a hypothesis and they question whether or not this hypothesis is true. So, yes, anyway, I just wanted to start with that, and I have gone on for 10 minutes now. So, now that I have done that, let's see what the cards have to tell us. Maybe they will give us, you know, more information to talk about, or something completely different. And for those Monty Python fans out there, and now for something completely different. Oh, hey now. Okay, she just fell out. Oh, okay. So they fell out, and I will just do one more shuffle. Okay, 2 more shuffles. All right. Now let's have a look. Okay, that's very interesting. We've got the King and Queen of Swords here. And here we've even got the Knight of Swords with over the top of the Chariot. Wow, this is very sword heavy, this one. And swords are, you know, to do with mental activity and mental energy and thoughts and communication and, you know, all of the mental stuff. Wow. Okay. I feel like I need to do this one as well. Alright. Okay, wow. So back of the deck is the 3 of Pentacles. So this is all about an apprenticeship. So let's have a look. Let's put you there. Okay. Swords and Cups and Pentacles by the looks of it. Yes, okay, so here we've got the King and Queen of Swords. We've got the 8. Is that the 8? No, that's not the 8. The 5 of Swords up here, and we have the 8 of Cups down here. So I will just quickly get out my cloth and show you. Oh, that's a bit better. Yes, okay. Okay, so to me it looks as if there's people, okay, those that I am reading for, and, you know, this reading can, you know, no matter what time of day you're seeing this reading, this is relevant for you at that time. Time is fluid, and yes, so don't worry about what time you listen to this reading. Anyway, so this looks as if, you know, you've got the King and Queen, you've got the balance, the mastery and balance of the mental realm. You've got very keen intellect. You're in charge of, where you Sorry, just I have massive download then. Anyway, yeah, so you've got a keen intellect, you know where you're headed, and you know precisely how to get there and how to communicate to others exactly what you want. And you're a masterful planner. However, there is this over here, this Five of Swords over the top of the Queen of Swords. So, and it's also reversed as well, which I find interesting because reverses can mean a number of things: blockages, internal struggles, you know, all of that stuff. So this to me is saying that even though you are in, you know, you have very developed mental faculties, there is still this anxiety and depression hanging over your head. And almost a trauma, I feel, because if you look, you can see how some of the swords are broken. And sorry about that. I just had a cat interrupt me. She was clawing my chair, so yes. Anyway, so as you can see, the swords are broken, and that to me implies, yeah, trauma. So that was upside down over there. So, and to me, the Queen of Swords, some people think of her as like sharp-tongued and like really can be a bit nasty in the way she speaks the truth, or in the way she speaks and communicates. Cutting wit, I think, is what people usually say. However, to me, I see her as more of a compassionate side, you know, a really gentle, intelligent woman. So this person, really, because, you know, they don't necessarily represent people as such. Excuse me while there we go. So yeah, it looks as if even though, you know, you've got the king side, which is all about action and proactivity and stuff. The queen side is receptivity and passiveness, almost. Not quite passiveness, but, you know, more receptive than passive. And, you know, she waits for things to come to her. She waits for, to make her decision. But it really looks as if this compassion that she has cultivated is almost blocked by past trauma. And you know how I was talking about the genes, how past trauma can turn on or off genes? This, and how, you know, when you resolve your ancestors' trauma, it resolves that trauma within you. So this is talking about it might be time to actually address some trauma and start resolving it. And considering I was talking about shamanism, perhaps even going to a shamanic healer and having them, or, you know, it doesn't have to be a shamanic healer. It can be whatever healer of your choice, Reiki healer, Seikam healer, any of those good energy healings, and just have them try and help you through this past trauma. And I don't just mean like energy healers, I mean psychologists, you know, whoever resonates with you, whoever will help you get through this trauma, go to them. even if it's you yourself, healing this trauma. This is just really suggesting that you heal the trauma. And down here, it's got the Eight of Cups, and there we are. It's on the Queen's side, and this person, I feel like saying she is reaching towards the shining cup up here. So if you resolve this trauma, you will be able to reach this, your goal of compassionate and fully balanced, mental capacity, mental faculties is what I'm trying to say, and communication and all of that stuff. So yes, this is, so basically find a healer, even if it's a psychologist, psychiatrist, doctor, whatever, energy healer, and even if it's yourself and you just want to grab a bunch of tarot cards, make sure you have someone there, someone you can call up to, help you if you do, hit your head against some blockages or some traumatic experiences, PTSD flashbacks. I'm just keep yourself safe. And when you do this, make sure that, you've got the safety measures in place to ensure that you can get through this safely and healthily. So, yes. Over here, we have the Knight of Swords. Well, we've got the Chariot, the Knight of Swords, the Three of Swords, and then the Four of Swords. As you can see, it's a very sword-heavy deck, because out of the 8 cards that we've gotten so far, 6 of them are swords. So here we have this almost feels like you're on a mission. Yeah, because we've got the Knight of Swords, which is all about, missions and crusades. And then we've also got the Chariot in the background, which is, also missions and crusades. But it's kind of more like a larger life theme than the, Knight of Swords. Anyway, so you've got the Knight of Swords here. He's upside down, and so is the Three of Swords and the Chariot. So, but the Four of Swords is right side up. Should I show you what I mean? Yeah, there we go. So, yes, anyway. This almost feels like a carry-on, a flow over of this one. So, you're on this mission to the words save the world keep coming into my head from Spirit, but it's not just save the world, it's lifting the world up so that we as a society, as a human family, can all live in peace and harmony and have a better life, not just for ourselves, but for everyone. So you're on this mission, and you want to unlock this compassion so that you can have this. And this is what I'm getting from Spirit. So if this resonates with you, great. If it doesn't, take it or leave it. It's completely up to you. So at least this card is saying that, you've got this heartbreak. You want to help others, but you've also got a broken heart. And it's so painful. And that seems to be holding you back from, fulfilling this mission that you have, this almost karmic mission that you were basically born to do. to help others, and you want to fulfill it. Your soul wants to fulfill it. This is, I was going to say this is your destiny, but it's, as I was saying before, destiny isn't really well, it is a thing, but this is pre-planned in your life. So before you were born, you decided that this would be your mission. So, and your mission, we were all born at this time for this particular, COVID-19 on Earth. So we're all here for a reason. We all have something that we need to do to help everyone through this transition. And, you really want to help people and society and the human family through this transition, but you feel blocked by this trauma and heartache, and it's just so painful. So these cards are suggesting that you meditate. Not only meditate on your mission, but also meditate on compassion, because there have been studies where compassion and meditating upon compassion actually increases your compassion for yourself and for others. And so the Buddhists have a saying, you cultivate compassion, and that's how you do it. And they've had really interesting results with, like, people who have been disregarded as, incorrigible. But, through this compassion meditation, people have actually come back from, they have reformed and all of that stuff. So, yeah. And a quote from Martin Luther King Jr., it's coming into my head about how hate doesn't resolve hate. Sorry if I'm mangling his quote. It's a paraphrase. Hate doesn't resolve hate. Only love resolves hate. And that's kind of pointing to this compassion. The only way to actually help the world and help everyone in it is to be compassionate and loving towards everyone. Because people are more likely to be kind and compassionate to you if you are kind and compassionate to them. Even the angriest of people respond to kindness. So, yeah, in a safe way. Like, remember that. I'm not saying go out into, the street with brawling people, and not that people would be brawling at this COVID-19 shutdown, but, I'm not saying put yourself into dangerous situations. I'm saying, be safe about it, and cultivate compassion and kindness. Loving kindness is also something really big with Buddhists, at least Tibetan Buddhists. Okay, so over here we have justice, and Three of Cups, Page of Wands, and the Hanged Man reverse. So I will just... Can you see that? There we go. So, two of these are major arcana cards, and that, as I said, deals with life themes. And it's interesting because this pile here is all major arcanas, but I'll continue interpreting this pile first. So it looks as if, you're putting all this work into cultivating compassion and becoming a better person, not only for yourself, but for society as a whole, and raising the vibration of society. And it looks like it's going to pay off. And the community here is celebrating. And to me, it's got the Three of Cups, and cups are emotions and intuition and consciousness. So to me, this feels like a really joyous, happy, kind, like community celebration where, where compassion and kindness are, and heart-based living is at, that's what they're celebrating, and it's become a part of the community. So, all of this work that you are doing to get over past trauma and heartbreak it's paying off. And we've got the Page of Wands over here. She's running off. To me, she feels like she's off like a rocket. She's got her eye on the ball and she is going for it. So, this, and then we've got the Hanged Man, which is, the change of perspective. And this Hanged Man is upside down. So perhaps it could be an internal perspective. Perhaps it's saying that society will have a change of perspective of what the world would be like if, we lived from this heart-based society. And it just looks as if she and society are celebrating this wonderful change in perspective and this justice moment. And it's not just justice for the people who have been working, but it's also justice for, those who are disenfranchised and those who are on the margins of society, the poor, the homeless, etc., etc. So, yes, it really looks as if, society will become a much more just society. And if you can't work, you won't be forced to work. Society will lift not just, those who can't work up, but it will lift everyone. Enjoy this new society, this new heart-based society. Anyway, so on to this pile. So here we have the Wheel of Fortune upside down. We've got the Devil card, and behind that we've got the World right side up. So the Devil card is also right side up. And we have the High Priestess upside down. So like I said, these are all major arcana cards. And yes. So here we've got the High Priestess, which is all about intuition and meditation, which, points back to this card. And we've also got the World, which is like a completion, and the Devil card, which is materialism and, the chains that bind. And then we've got the Wheel of Fortune. So to me, this is saying that the wheel is genuinely turning. There is a group that's trying to hold it back from turning, but ultimately, the underneath it all, we've got this really strong, powerful, physical, spiritual force ensuring that the world is turning. and, you know, that the wheel is turning. So ultimately, you know, this force that's trying to chain the world and keep it as it is at this point in time, or, you know, corporate culture and the capitalism where people are left behind. This group is trying to keep it in that and keep it from evolving, keep it from changing, and society and the human family from uplifting not only themselves but each other. But as I said here, the wheel is turning, and this group, it's going to fall away. They're going to fall away because not only is this spiritual force underneath ensuring that, you know, this beautiful society is going to come into fruition, but we've also got the world that is ensuring that this force, and not just the world, but the human family. And when I say the world, I also mean kind of like Gaia, Mother Earth. You know, they're all pushing for this change in society, change in perspective, you know, this justice, or this just society coming up. And so ultimately, I'm reading that they will fail. So there's a lot of butting of heads going on. There's a lot of trying to restrict progress and restrict growth. But I feel like ultimately these chains can't contain what's happening to the world. These chains. So I'm not sure if you can see it, but the world, you can't really see it, but the world has like this fuzzy blue outline around it that's kind of larger than the devil card. Yeah, so you can see it there, the fuzzy blue outline. So it's actually larger than the chains. And not only that, but the High Priestess card is larger than the chains because you can see it on the outside there. And here we've got the Wheel of Fortune is also larger than the chain. So what all of this is saying is that the chains cannot contain this, the enormity of what's happening right now. They will try, but they will break eventually, and soon, by the feels of it. Yes, and I'm getting, Spirit said yes, they will break. The chains will fall off and humanity will just blossom into this beautiful, wonderful, you know, different perspective and heart-based society. So, I mean, that's great. Like, I'm very happy with that. You know, chains can't contain us. Rah! So, yes, go us. Anyway, so, sorry about the reflection. Sorry about the absolute, how's that? It's not really focusing. Oh well. So, yes, over here we've got the Page of Pentacles, the Ace of Wands, the Ten of Swords, and the Emperor. So to me, this is saying society has genuinely reached its lowest point. We cannot go any lower than this. This is like a crisis. And we all know this, you know, COVID-19, the whole isolation thing, it's a massive crisis, and it's a worldwide crisis. And, you know, now that we have all recognized that this is, you know, as far as capitalism, I suppose, can take us, and this whole predatory, competitive society, now that we've recognized it, we can, you know, take hold of the reins and direct society towards where we want it to go, and build a new, more solid foundation for something so much better than what it is now. And I also want to talk about, this has just reminded me of something else that I wanted to talk about, which is those scientific studies that psychologists have set up about how when children are on their own, you know, they will, and the ultimate goal is a reward at the end of the day. So it's a competitive situation that they've set up for, you know, 6-year-olds or something like that. So, and the child that, you know, they have to put their back to a dartboard and throw, you know, child-friendly darts, not like sharp anything. And they have to throw it at the board, and the child that gets it closest to the center wins the reward at the end of the day. And so that's a competitive situation, and they studied whether or not, you know, how the children will act when they are unsupervised and when they are, you know, supervised by an invisible princess. And naturally, well, anyway, long story short, the children who are unsupervised, who are alone in the room, you know, pretending to throw it backwards, they tend to cheat and just walk up to the board and, you know, put the dart where they think it would be, where they, you know, it's closest to the middle as one could if they were to, you know, throw it backwards over their shoulder. Whereas those who have been supervised, that, you know, the children typically obey the rules of, you know, actually doing it over their shoulder and not looking, and, you know, so they don't cheat. And this was presented as something to prove that we need a higher power to we need a higher power to make sure that we stay on the right track, that we are moral and all of that stuff. Because when they think that there is an invisible force in the room or an invisible person in the room, the children are better. But I just feel that that whole experiment is fundamentally flawed because it's set up in a competitive situation. And that's the society that we are in currently, where, you know, survival of the fittest and all of that competition. And the thing is, you know, in the wild, it isn't the survival of the fittest. Speaking as an environmental scientist, you know, I have studied this, and I know that wolves, they look after their elderly. They look after their sick. They don't just let them starve and die. They actually, you know, go out and actively help them. And this also makes me think of the real-life Lord of the Flies that happened in Tonga So I think there were 6 Australian boys who went to a Tongan private school, and one day they just decided to, they were sick of the food, and they got on a random fishing boat. Well, it wasn't quite random because they took a boat of a fisherman that they didn't particularly like. Anyway, so they got lost out at sea and landed on this island, and they lived on that island for 15 months, and not one of them, they didn't turn on each other like in Lord of the Flies. One of them broke his leg, and he fell off a cliff and broke his leg. And so the other 5 actually climbed down the cliff, picked him up, climbed back up the cliff with him, and, looked after him and made sure that he was okay, that he had food, water, all of that necessary stuff until his leg healed. And they all cooperated together. And, there wasn't any, internal struggle. And if there was any fights, they would just separate the boys until they had calmed down. And then that's how they dealt with fights. So, that's a cooperative, that's a cooperative system of society. And that's, it's found in nature. It's found in human societies, because I remember there was this scientific study, I think, that happened in one of the African countries. And, they said to some children, the one who makes it to that tree first gets the prize. And so instead of the children racing each other to get to the tree first, they all held hands and walked to the tree, and they all arrived at the tree at the same time. And that's the cooperative nature that I'm talking about. That's the cooperative society, the heart-based society, where everyone is looked after, everyone is safe and healthy, and, all of that stuff. So, yes, and that is the sort of society that we are birthing at this point in time. And, I think that's absolutely fantastic and wonderful, because, it just gives a lot more freedom for different, diverse human experiences. So, yes, anyway, I feel like I've done a lot of lecturing in this particular reading. So I am just going to quickly pull out the Lightworkers Oracle and see. I might just get a quick message. I hope I did actually finish interpreting this and I didn't just go off on a rant. So we're at the lowest point, but now we have this opportunity to, take, I think I did say it, take this society in a different direction, in a cooperative direction rather than a competitive direction. Anyway. Oh, these. Okay, let's have a look. Okay, so interesting. So you know how under this pile we have the king and queen of swords. You can only really see the king, so let's get rid of that one. Yeah, there we go, there's the queen. Anyway, so here we have power of the divine masculine and wisdom of the divine feminine. So we've got, balance again, the masculine and feminine in balance. And that is ultimately what we are trying to do. We're trying to ensure that toxic masculinity just goes out the window, and it's all about, a balanced, a balanced society, where people are in tune with their feminine side and their masculine side, and it's not a toxic feminine side and it's not a toxic masculine side. It's healthy. And having this balance of masculine and feminine, it's a healthy way to live in life. So be in tune with your emotions and, the emotions of others, but also having the power to do what needs to be done. And using them in a way that promotes compassion and goodness and kindness in society, and this cooperative society, heart-based society. Because the competition, the competitive society, is a very masculine thing, and it doesn't it's not it's basically designed to serve the ego rather than the soul or the heart or the person underneath the ego. It doesn't it doesn't help them. And with this, it's not like with the competition, it's always outcompeting or trying to outcompete the divine feminine. Whereas if we have this cooperative society, the divine feminine and the divine masculine can work in tandem, and it will be a much, much more balanced, healthy, and compassionate society. Anyway, so we've got messages in the numbers 1111, which, I guess if you have been seeing repeated numbers, I've personally been seeing like reflecting numbers like 12, 21, or 13, 31, stuff like that. That's what I've been seeing. So it doesn't have to just be repeating numbers. It can be reflecting numbers, and just pay attention to them, because there are messages in these numbers, and the universe, angels, whoever it is, spirit is actually trying to tell you something. And when you receive these messages, just Google what they mean, or get a copy of Doreen Virtue's Angel Numbers, and just have them interpret it that way. Or you could use numerology. So, and now we've got Soul Child. So this to me is talking about, healing your inner child, because back here we've got, the trauma of the divine feminine, and, you're on a mission, but you're heartbroken from this trauma. So this is talking about, healing your inner child, just playing, and just doing what you love, and self-care. I'm also getting self-care. So yes, this has gone on for a very long time, and I feel like I need to, because these cards kind of jumped out at me and said, Jessie, you need to use us in this. So I will. So these are the blessing cards. Oops, sorry for hitting the microphone there. Anyway, so yeah, let's give these just a little bit of a shuffle, and then I will pick one at random. Okay. Feel like this is what I need to do. And because I've got cards underneath, it's kind of a bit dodgy. But anyway, so this is a blessing for peace of mind. So if anyone is having fear, anxiety around, you know, what's going on in the world, this crisis of this societal crisis that's going on, COVID-19, all of that stuff, you know, this card is just saying, you know, don't worry, don't fear, you'll be all right, we'll be all right, society will be all right, and we will get through this. So, and I feel like, and we've even got a blessing from your ancestors. So they're also helping us through this time, you know. So yes, I hope this has enlightened you somewhat as to what's going on at this point in time. On the back of the card, back of the deck, it's got blessing on your intuition, which is nice. Anyway, sorry. So yes, I hope this has, yes, enlightened you and assisted you, or if not, at least entertained you. And yes, I hope this finds you well. Many blessings, not just from me, but from the blessings card. Anyway, yes. Have a good night, everyone. Bye.